Hello, humans. Welcome back to the F Lines podcast, the show where we talk about creativity, focus, and how to stay wildly functional in a distracted world. I'm your host slash friendly neighborhood extraterrestrial, Andrew Foltz, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking with my creative partner in crime, Kathy Palokoff, about names and lines. How do you find a good name for your company? What should you put in your Instagram bio? And how do you attract the right people with the words that come out of your mouth? All that and more is coming up, so I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so today I want to talk about lines, and in specific, I want to talk about fault lines. So if you're starting a company, like I am, and Kathy, I know you're building a company, it helps to figure out who your audience is and how to talk to them. And the way to do that is really all about words. And both of us have started companies where we have this word. You have fire starter, and I have lines, F lines. And that's kind of the first step. But I really want to talk about the second step where you're figuring out how to explain to people what that means, and not even getting to the point of like the elevator speech, but before that, like if you're just thinking about your Twitter bio or your Instagram bio, or what you're telling people when you meet them for the first time, what's that first sentence that comes out of your mouth? That's what I want to talk about today. Do you have any thoughts on how you explain your company to other people?
I tend to be way too wordy.
Yeah.
So for me, it was how did I do two things? One is get it short, and two, make it not about me. Because
Mm,
the biggest thing I see is that when people talk about their company, they're talking about what they do, but not what the why is for someone else, the benefit for someone else. So that's,
right.
the place where I had to take about. So I got really simple. I talk about fire starters, and what I do is I help ignite, fuel, and accelerate individuals and businesses. Bump out of
Mm,
there. and then
yeah.
and then nobody knows what I'm talking about. And then they ask,
It's
okay.
funny, like as a creative person, there's always these things that seem like they make perfect sense in my mind, but then when you talk to other people, you really realize that no one else has any clue what you're talking about, even if it seems really straightforward. So I think part of maybe finding the right words is actually just talking to people and not being in your head, because it's really hard to come up with the perfect line or the perfect way to describe your business, the perfect elevator pitch if you're sitting at home and trying to figure it out. I was listening to this podcast recently. I forget who said it, but he was like a coach. He was talking about how when he writes, he feels really stupid compared to when he's actually working with coaching clients because they're not in front of him. And so he spends a lot of time he actually has someone when he's in important meetings who sits there and pays attention to what the other person is reacting to,
Yeah,
which I thought
great.
is really cool. I mean, not all of us have assistants that can do that for us, but you kind of, if you're going to be a creative person who's functioning as a solopreneur, you kind of have to develop that ability to code switch between, being creative and being passionate, and then also being analytical about what you're saying and how people are reacting to you. What's your experience been with like testing, how to explain your company to other people?
Well, it's not only testing my company, but also um, not walking in with assumptions. So let me
Yeah.
give you another example, which is really a fun example. So I had a client who I loved, and what she made was her audience was women who were breastfeeding. Okay, and
Hmm.
what she did is she made basically clothing that made it easy to breastfeed, and particularly undergarments, bras, I guess I can
Yeah.
say, because they're not great ones out there.
Yeah.
But even how to do that. So she came up with a name for her company, which was called Cozy Rack. Okay, and I talked her out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, you can't tell women that their boobs are a rack. I mean, I brought in all my 60s feminism, and you can't call it a rack. And we played with other names. So we had like a sort of fun little name, Jill and Harold. And then we had a more scientific one, which was benefit oriented, like, lots of milk, or something like that. But, and then we did a little test, and we did a little focus group with a bunch of women who were all nursing moms. And so, and by the way, I'm like 20 years older than them. Make it 30 years older than them, okay? But I had the nursing mom experience because I had done that.
Yeah.
They loved Cozy Rack. Loved it, because they were feeling sort of asexual at that time. They were feeling like milk machines, right? And all of a sudden, whoa, I got a rack. You know what I mean? It felt really good for them. So my whole intellectual logic was thrown out the window, okay? And the name was perfect. It described exactly what it was. It was nurturing for the baby, and it really was about their rack. And who would have known?
So is it kind of, when you're thinking about writing a company name or a company description, is it kind of like the thing that you're afraid of that might be a sign that that's what you should actually go with? I mean, not a sure thing, but it's kind of like if you're reeling in a fish and you get a really big bite and you get that feeling of like, oh God, did I just land a shark? Is it kind of like, what do you look for when you're thinking about a word or a phrase?
Well, to be honest, I actually do it systematically. So in that particular case, I was letting my history and my emotions get involved, right?
Yeah.
So your question before was about sort of how do you research it? You have to not fall in love, whether it's your own name or whether you're giving advice, etc. But then I actually do a grid sheet with criteria across the side, and then a variety of different names. So the criteria I'm looking for are things like, is it differentiating? Okay. Is it intriguing? Like your name of your company is really intriguing. F the line.
Yeah.
What? And it's really intriguing. Is it, can I get a URL with it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a huge, big
I was so happy when I got a URL. I was like, my life will be over. When I came up with that, it was like, getting hit by lightning. I'm like, my life will be over if I do not get this domain name and it's already taken. And it was there, and it was like, yes.
And I was very lucky. I mean, I got Go Firestarter.
It's funny because I remember when we were coming up with working on names, and you had a bunch of domains, and Firestarter was your first choice initially, but then we started thinking about Firestarter, and it was like, I kind of really like this. I like the word go, because a lot of fire starters, I think, forget that go part. They get kind of ground down by the system or discouraged or whatever, and they need that person, you, to bring in the passion again, to help them, remind them that they are a fire starter, and all they need to do is take that first big step again.
Right. So so putting criteria across the top, relevancy, and sometimes you need businesses that are more functional named. I mean, it says what it is, because I don't trust taglines. A lot of people say, well, I'll put it in the tagline. I don't know if I really trust that. But you also need, it has to be in your heart. So, F the line, when we talked about it, was you really being fed up with a lot of lines in your life.
Yeah.
That you thought you had to do something, and you wanted action. I mean, you're on that. For me, Firestarter came out, and I think I've told you about this, is that, I'm in a car, trapped. That works really well for coming up.
I don't think I've heard this story.
Okay, so I'm coming back from a retreat with women business owners of a group, and the woman who runs that retreat is really, really brilliant. And I have all these multiple interests. I have restaurants, I have blah, blah, blah. So when I would give my talk about what I did,
Yeah.
I would always, well, I'm an author, I'm a bump, I'm a restaurateur, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I'd watch people's eyes roll over.
Yeah.
And they couldn't grasp what I really was. So, what do you really do? And Bobby looked at me and she said, Kathy, you're a fire starter. And it was like, oh, that feels really good.
Isn't it nice
I
when
could
someone else
wear it.
finds the perfect name for you? And
And
then it's like validated, because when you come up with it by yourself, it's like you don't know what you really have. But then when someone helps you get to the specific word, or maybe close to the word, it's like it's validating that someone else sees you in that way.
well, and not only did it validate how that someone saw me in that way, but it also is really critical about who I wanted to work with.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's their language.
F the lines, you don't want to work with people who don't want to F the line.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're not interested in, giving advice or writing your book for, somebody who, the only thing they care about in their life is whether or not they're going to make six figures, in the next, year, right?
Yeah.
I don't like boring people. I mean, they drive me nuts,
Yeah.
and so I love fire starters. And there's nothing more important to me right now, or to you, than our time. So
Yeah.
who we're working with needs to fit into, people we feel A, will appreciate us, and B, people who we can help. I mean,
Yeah.
if I have to educate people on why they need to be a fire starter, they're
It's
probably
not the
not
right
my
person.
audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are other things on a name or a
So
description.
let's say, I think maybe a problem, or not a problem, but just something that needs to be solved with both of our names, is that you don't immediately know what they are. Like if you just put them on a piece of paper, people aren't going to necessarily know what they are. And maybe a different example is Nerd Fitness. Have you ever heard of that company? So that's an obvious one. It's like, okay, it's in the name. I completely
Great.
get what it is.
Yeah.
So do you apply the same type of criteria when you're writing, like if you're thinking about what to put in your bio? Are you using these different, like one of the things that I did recently was just come up with a list of terms that people might use to describe how they feel before they've effed the lines. It's like prison, 9 to 5, the man, corporate, stuff like this. And then the aspirations are like freedom and, being able to dream and make a living and stuff like that. So how do you take like a company name and then build like a very short sentence out of it that helps people get it right away, if you have a name that's a little bit more on the abstract side?
Well, I think the formula is, for me, is the why comes first.
Okay.
Okay, why I'm doing this, I'm helping you ignite and fuel. And then it's the how I'm doing it and the what. When I went to journalism school, and the first thing you learn,
The 5 W's.
do the 5 W's, right? It had to be in that first paragraph, because the assumption on anything was after the first graph they stopped reading, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the what I do is important. So because people say, what do you do? Well, I help you tell your story through books. I do business consulting. I do lean marketing. I use familiar terms that they all know about. The how do I do it is through working one-on-one with people, content development, all those kind of things. And people get it now. Because really what I'm doing is using tools and helping you use tools so that you end up really being able to ignite that fire starter in you so that you feel successful. In your case, how would you describe what you actually do?
Yeah, so I'm writing it down. I want to do a live example right now, so let's see if we can workshop this. I think it starts out, I say something like, I help creative entrepreneurs escape the prison of distraction and find their freedom, something like that. That's the first draft, but
Well,
it's too vague.
are you telling anyone yet what the name of your book might be?
I could put that in the bio. I'm really like excited for the day when I can say, you know, in my bio, like Andrew Foltz, author of Wildly Functional. You
Yeah,
know,
but
it's
see, I would actually start using that language. I
yeah.
think you're helping.
I have like the paranoia of every entrepreneur in that I'm like terrified that people are going to steal my book name because it's so good. I've tested it with people and people will just like get it instantly, and I'm like terrified that someone's going to steal it. I know it's ridiculous, but you know, it just feels like that.
I think it is not ridiculous, but really what you're trying to do is get people to be creative people to be wildly functional.
Yeah.
I mean, the wildly functional part is more than so F the line for me is attitudinal. In
Yeah.
order to get to that place, you have to say F the line. What makes you different is that you're teaching people then the next place, which is once you've said F the line, how do you become wildly functional
Yeah.
and achieve what you want? So you almost have, you have an interesting dilemma in that you almost have two things
I
going.
know. Well, here's what I talked to with my friend. It's really funny because I have this friend who's basically like my ideal client because he's kind of like he has my creative mindset, but he's like 5 years behind in terms of like he hasn't been able to like build those systems and get organized and stuff like that. And we were talking about the whole point of the 365-day challenge, which is kind of the core of the book, is that it helps people make their creative debut to the world. You know, it's like here you've been going in a million directions, and this isn't about making $100,000 or landing the perfect whatever. It's just about getting your shit together and having some kind of like big signal that you've done that, you know, like writing a book or putting on an art show, something like that to get you from the point of being just all over the place to having this thing where it's like, yes, I've done something big and now like I've arrived, like I'm here, I'm on the scene and I can go from there, something like that. But I don't know how to work that in. It's like so many different parts.
Well, the thing that I think is more an issue with what you're doing is how do you protect some of these assets? So, if you have this book coming out that we will not name, how do you
The book that
protect
will not be named.
name? How do you protect that name?
Yeah,
Do you have book.com? Did you buy that?
I
You know,
should. Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
idea.
you know what I mean? Not even that you're going to have separate websites, but you should really say, how do I protect this asset, this great name as much as possible so that you can alleviate some of your stress
Yeah,
around somebody else copying that?
yeah, that's smart.
Because then I would, if you alleviate the stress, then I would use that language
Yeah,
because that language is really good language, and it's much more succinct than saying someone, I mean, and then you get this 365 challenge, which is the how. I
yeah,
mean, that's the thing, that's the last. So you have your why to F the line, you have the what, which is the words we're never going to use again, and then you have the how, which is the challenge, right?
yeah.
So, I would make sure that those were all in that first paragraph.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Fine. Yeah, I wouldn't. Because you're really going from conceptual to this is why it will make it work, which
Yeah,
is really what I ended up doing with Go Firestarters. So, my elevator speech or my pitch is, is who I do it for. I help individuals and businesses ignite, fuel, and accelerate. And then I get a little weird because what my mouth wants to say is their dreams. And then it's like, ooh, it makes me sort of go, gag a little on that because everybody's after their dreams. So I don't really have that word. What am I really helping them ignite, fuel, and accelerate? What do you think? What should that word be?
say that again.
What I do is I help individuals and businesses ignite, fuel, and accelerate what?
Mm.
Their dreams, their passion, I end up with
Well,
words.
I mean, I think passion is definitely a buzzword for you, but I would almost see it like I help you rekindle your passion, or insert passion or rekindle passion in your business and life, something like that.
Yeah, but I'm not doing that. I'm not rekindling. Okay, what I'm really doing, I mean, you're more of it's broken, now I'll take you down the path. I
Mm-hmm.
want to work with people who are fire starters to help them ignite their new ideas, to take their business to the next level, to get them to complete the book.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so I'm not into rekindling. I'm into, you've had this in you. Everybody has that.
I guess by rekindle, what I mean is that people have sort of forgotten, like they've accomplished lots of things, but they've reached a point where they feel stuck. So I
No,
don't.
no, no, that's not what I'm doing. No, and we've had this discussion, and
Yeah.
there was a point where I really thought I was rekindling. I want
So
people,
what problem are they expressing? Like, what are
well,
they saying in their language?
okay, so what happens is somebody will call me and say, um, I want to write a book. I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to do that. I don't know how to start it.
Yep.
Or they'll say, I wrote a book. I don't think it's very good. Can you help me with that?
Mm-hmm.
They've already got that. There was something in them that ignited them to do that, like you, okay? I mean, it's hard work writing a book. You know that.
Yeah.
So then I become very disciplined with them. Okay, I'm saying, okay, this is what we need to do. No, this doesn't work right here. Let's go edit here. And I become a writing coach. I become an editor. This is in the book area. I also, with people who have an idea for a business, I'm like, let's get pragmatic about it.
So is
Who is
this the get it done type of?
I don't, yeah, this is not
Okay.
um, let's think about your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm farther down.
Okay.
I mean, I'm like somebody who is defining themselves as a fire starter.
Yeah.
So it's not really sort of about dreams or passion. It's about,
What makes you different? So you're talking about the execution, but it's a very focused execution, and is that what makes you different from other people? Like, how do you see yourself as?
that's all. I love that question.
Yeah,
What,
it's a really hard question to answer.
what makes me different is me.
Yeah.
Okay. What makes you different is you. Okay. It's not your process, your methodology. You're writing this thing that has cartoons in it. Really? I mean, it's not the cartoon that makes you different. It's the way your thoughts and your thinking. When people talk to me, they feel smarter. Okay. Will say to me things like, oh, you're really good at ideas, but they will walk away and say, I felt smarter talking to you. I got it clarified talking to you. I now know what I need to do. I mean, and it's how I relate and talk to people. I'm very quick.
It seems like what you're saying is that you bring passion to execution.
I bring, I provoke. I provoke them to think about things in different ways, to ask hard questions. I'm intensely curious.
Hmm.
Okay. And don't sort of go, well, according to business model point A16, you should be doing this, this, this. I listen. You know, I I do all that, and I put A, B, and C together, and then put in Z, G, F at the same time. So
Yeah.
I don't know what I do,
Well, it
but what
seems like, I
I
mean,
do know when I
you're
do it
talking
well,
about
I'm passionate.
you're talking about strategy, but the interesting thing about you is, like it's like you're bringing passion, you have the strategy, but you're bringing the passion to the actual execution of the thing. And I think for a lot of companies, it breaks down in between the strategy and the execution. Like someone's writing a book and they work with someone on the ideation for it and they're feeling really excited, but then it gets to the actual writing of the book and it breaks down because the people who are doing it, maybe it's outsourced, to another country or something like that. And it seems like you actually like to do the writing. So you continue that passion through the strategy until the actual final product.
I like things to get complete.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where you and I are similar. Okay, I mean, you're not about let's rebel. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
yours is okay. You're here now. How are you going to move forward? How are you going to get action? How are you doing that? And that's a similar way that we do it. But the question was, what makes me different? Lots of people do strategy and execution.
I know,
Okay.
but I'm saying they don't have the passion. That's
I think a lot of people have the passion. I just think I'm really good at what I do. I
well, a
mean,
lot of people think that.
yeah, but I am, and I have proof in it. But
I'm not
that's
so
it.
sure. I'm not so sure that people actually describe themselves as having passion. I think the idea of business and passion is interesting. Like that, it's always stuck with me that you have this like almost childlike enjoyment and just joy for life that is missing from a lot of people. Even agencies that they say, oh, we're super passionate about what we do, and they're not telling the truth. I mean, they may love it, but it's just, I don't know, you are the most passionate person I've ever met. And I just think passion and business are interesting words for you. You're like the golden retriever of strategy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes me different? I'm really a reborn golden retriever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. I see. I actually react with passion with an eye roll. It's like, oh, I've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying I'm honest or trust me, right? I mean, those words, like as soon as you say them, it like I'm passionate. As soon as I hear someone say that, it's like I don't want anyone to say that. I want them
Yeah.
to prove it.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So I don't know what it's. I'm going to take those words. I'm writing notes too, and I like
Yeah.
this working session on here. But passion isn't doing it for me.
I think, I maybe the golden retriever strategy is too silly, but I think that's interesting, like, cause you were thinking about writing customers as dogs,
Yeah.
and I mean, it could be like, uh, cozy racks, it's very much similar to that. I mean, people, I think when they perceive you, they perceive this kind of like bounding
I
super
am a
high
golden
energy, very
retriever.
happy. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm
And people
enthusiastic.
people love dogs, so
So I should
really can't go wrong there.
I'm not a fire starter. I'm a reincarnated golden retriever, right? The problem with golden retrievers, though, which is interesting, because I've owned them many.
Yeah.
What I like about them is they're single focused. I want to have joy. I want to have fun. I want
Hmm.
to, and I like that. They're also, I don't think real smart, but maybe I'm.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though, is that they know how to make things simple, which I think is a
Yeah,
form of intelligence. And that is
yeah.
something that I've always noticed that you're so good at, is making things simple enough so that the average person will understand and relate to it and feel powerfully impacted by it. And not everyone has that ability. I tend to be like on the more complex, real super analytical side, and I come up with these ideas that are just that no one understands but me, but I mean, you just have this ability, just like golden retriever, to make things simple, and like everyone can relate to a golden retriever, even people who are super cynical, who are in a grumpy mood, and golden retriever comes up to them, and it's like, no way are you not going to smile and pet that thing. I mean, it's just like they just bring joy and like simplicity and happiness to the world.
Yeah, my my 3 husbands or ex-husbands would probably not agree with that, but I like the picture of it. By the way, also, it's interesting, like, while I think that you may perceive yourself as complex, and that probably what I've actually noticed about you, particularly over the last couple of years, is you have a really clear view of what you like and don't like,
Yeah.
and what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
Hmm.
And that enables you to F the line,
Yeah.
right? And that enables you to be functional.
Yeah.
So your single-minded clarity. So while you may be more complex, I think you're clearer than I am.
Yeah,
And
it's been a reaction, definitely, because I was just like all over the place. And it's like, okay, this, especially when I met Christina and she asked to see my portfolio, I hadn't shown anyone or even thought about my portfolio for like 5 years. And then it was like, I'm fucking humiliated because I have nothing. I have all these like little tidbits of stuff all over the place, all this little crap that no one understands. And it's like, okay, I am done with this. I'm never going to be, I never want to feel like that again. Yeah. So sometimes the way that you describe yourself or the goals you have or your company or whatever comes out of the opposite of whatever you were,
yeah,
like that feeling of like exploding into a totally different space.
yeah. Do you think you'll continue? So how old you're still? How old are you now? I
Like
keep on
80.
thinking harder.
Like 80. Like
And
100 and a billion. No,
well,
I'm 29.
you're still under 30. I thought about
Yeah.
that. I mean, so I'm double your age, essentially, almost in that. And I've just gone through all these morphing and transforming in my life. But whenever I take like these sort of tests, I'm, I've always been doing exactly what I wanted
Yeah.
all my life, and I haven't strayed very far from it.
Yeah.
So I remember taking tests with people where they were in jobs, but their interests were out here. I've always been consistent with where my passion has been.
Yeah.
I sort of think you have too. I mean, you've been in different like slight side trips, but your road, I mean, weren't a medical doctor who decided to be an art director. I mean,
Yeah.
you've always been around creativity, but functional creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to build with Legos when I was a kid, and that's kind of like one of the central concepts of the book is that like the best way to be creative is to build with the right blocks, because when you start out with the right blocks, you can be infinitely creative, but the end result is going to be the right end result. Versus if you just start from scratch, yeah, you can make something absolutely amazing, but you could also make just absolute garbage that no one knows what it looks like. Like, if you start with castle Lego pieces, you're going to build some kind of castle. It might be a crazy castle, but it's going to be a castle. So that's kind of the
So
like,
the words I would use then to start describing you is that you help people be functionally creative without losing any of their imagination.
yeah,
Because what's the big fear that creative people have is that if you put them in a box, if you do any of this stuff, they're going to lose their heart. And their heart is beyond creativity, it's imagination,
yeah,
right? It's exploration. It's all that. You don't have a problem going to the moon in a spaceship, but you want to make sure that spaceship's going to get you to the moon.
yeah,
Okay, but you don't. You're the pilot. You don't choose to become a pilot who's going to, be on a plane. You want to go up.
mm-hmm,
You want to explore.
yeah,
And I mean, so I may be the golden retriever wagging my tail, but you're an explorer. I mean, and you help people explore, but exploration by its definition has an end result. People who set out to find, America set out to find America, they wanted to find roots to tea, right? And
Yeah.
and that you hit an end result. So I don't know. I love this exploration of the power of language and how
Yeah.
do you
So
do that.
let's try to give people some kind of tangible takeaways. I think that what was really helpful for me is getting back to the why, how, what, and wait, I wrote how twice. Why, how, what else did we say? The who,
What's that?
obviously.
The three.
The
Yeah.
three. Okay. So why, how, and what. Make it really simple. And then just getting back to the idea that we started this episode with is just you have to have some kind of tension between 2 points, like a fault line. Like the gold retriever of strategy is interesting because you don't think of golden retrievers, like you said, as someone who is a strategist. You think of them as passionate and fun, but it's
Mhm.
like the tension between those two things. And then, like we're talking about, for me, functionally creative, teaching people how to get to the moon, but feel like they know that they're going to get to the moon, building with the right pieces to start out with. So there's that tension between your imagination and then also wanting to make sure that you're going to get to the place that you're envisioning. Do you have
Mhm.
anything else you want to add to that?
Um, the other thing I would just add is that words mean really different things to people.
Mm,
So just look at the word passion. You got all enthusiastic about passion, and I'm going, no,
yeah.
and we all bring in this history from wherever we are. So to be able to look at language almost objectively, and then sort of to go out and test it, I think is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to finish, how would you put together a little focus group? Like, would you use, how do you find, if you're starting a new audience, how do you find the right people to test it with in the first place?
Well, in the case of Cozy Rex, guess what? It needed to be
Yeah.
moms who were nursing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was really important. In my case, I would find people who were entrepreneurs, but not just only business, but people who I found inspiring and test them. I don't
How about,
really
how about this? Entrepreneurs.
like.
Yeah.
I
I'm really interested in like these people who are sort of like, they're starving artists, and they want more than that. They want more than just creating Etsy accounts, but they're also not like fully to the point of making a living yet.
well, that's interesting. I might go to a website like that and pick some people who I thought their work was inspired,
Yeah.
and then do an online focus group with them.
Right.
Say, I want to, and I would give them the why. I really want to help creative people
Yeah.
be more, blank, blank words in that. Can you help me understand that? I also think the reason why the cozy focus group worked is that I had 3 alternatives for people to react to. So
Yeah.
a lot of the thing is not just having one idea and saying, what do you think of this?
No, if they
It's
don't
just
like it, you're done.
vague.
Yeah.
But saying, I'm thinking of these 3 directions, and have them very different
Yeah.
so that you get feedback. It really has to do with what you were talking about of that tension and that
Right.
line. Create that tension.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so the why, the how, and the what, and then you want to have tension, and then as a third step, testing with a focus group, finding people online. Like if you go to Etsy, for me, like that sounds like a great idea to find people. And speaking of finding, where can people find you online, Kathy?
You can go to gofirestarter.com. They can find me on social media. I love email, and I love talking to people.
Yeah,
I mean, I pick up the phone
yeah,
because that's what gives me stimulation. So if you want to talk to me, email me at Kathy@gofirestarter.com, and we'll set up one of these Zoom kind of things, and we'll Zoom around, or else we'll just do it by phone,
yes.
and that. So that's what I like. How
All
about you?
right. People can find me at FLines everywhere, flines.com and wildlyfunctional.com because I'm going to go buy it right after we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you guys for sticking with us, and we'll be back next week with a new topic. We'll see you later.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Kathy.